The second day of the Derek Chauvin trial happened today with testimony from an MMA fighter who was a witness to the killing of George Floyd. Now, Donald Wynn Williams is the third witness in the Chauvin trial to talk about his experience witnessing George Floyd being suffocated to death with Chauvin's knee on his neck for nearly 9 minutes straight. And so I don't want to give too much away. Here's some of what Williams had to say on the stand today.
At the beginning, you referred to Officer 987. Where did you get that number from?
Honestly, it was just visually popped in my head. Okay. Like I looked at his badge, and that's what I read on his badge.
And so, whose badge? Which officer were you referring to?
The officer sitting over there.
Okay. And was that also the officer that had his knee on George Floyd's neck?
That is correct.
And for the record, when your previous answer, you were pointing to the defendant, Mr. Chauvin?
That's correct.
Okay. And so the purpose in making, what was the purpose in making that 911 call at that time?
I just felt like that was the right thing to do. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what to do.
So that questioning came from the prosecutor, and the exchange with the defense attorney was unsurprisingly combative and gross, because remember, the defense is using this argument that Derek Chauvin was distracted by witnesses yelling at him. Now, keep in mind that the witnesses yelling at him were demanding that he take his knee off of George Floyd's neck. That's what they were yelling. But the exchange with Williams and the defense attorney was horrendous, because what the defense attorney attempted to do was make Williams out to be some intimidating, scary person. Oh, Derek Chauvin, the cop who's heavily armed and is like murdering someone in broad daylight, was terrified by the witnesses and had no choice. Like, he was so distracted that he didn't even realize he was suffocating someone for nearly 9 minutes straight. I do want to go to the next video though, and then I'll bring you in, Aida, because I want to hear your thoughts. Let's take a look at what more Williams had to say.
Did you make a 911 call?
That is correct. I did call the police on the police.
All right. And why did you do that?
Because I believe I witnessed a murder.
Now, there were police there, right?
There were police there.
Okay, why didn't you just talk to them about it?
I believe that we just didn't have no connection. I spoke to them, but not on a connection of a human being relationship. You could see that he was going through tremendous pain, and you could see it in his face from the grunting. You could see his eyes slowly, rolling back in his head, and him having his mouth open.
Think about how hopeless that situation is, and it's something that so many people across the country, especially communities of color, experience on a regular basis. Like, who do you call when you witness a cop using excessive force on someone? And he said it. He's like, I called the police on the police, but what good does that do when you have this systemic problem with policing in America? Aida.
So as far as I'm concerned, Donald Williams is a hero because this stand that he's taken and being able to speak out, to point out Derek Chauvin, is something that we know that has come with great consequences in this country when you take a stand against the police. And so, one thing about him that I respect and admire is that he said what he said. They said, you called him this, you called him that. He said, I said what I said. What else is he supposed to be feeling in the moment where he can see another black man, a reflection of himself, whose life is being taken from him in broad daylight in the presence of other people with reckless abandon and no form of empathy or fear of consequence? So what is he supposed to say to Derek? Why wouldn't he be angry and speak out and lash out? We all felt that way. And this is a very big case, and it is something that awakened certain parts of this country where people who didn't believe that this was the reality in the day-to-day life of black people in this country, brown people in this country, or have finally been able to see something like this. But it's just one case, and regardless of what happens with this case, so many people have been murdered since George Floyd, and so many people were murdered before him, and there have been no consequences to the people who have committed these egregious acts against these human beings. And so I just hope that this is the beginning of change, the beginning of more change, or the change that we need. And we know it's gonna take a very long time, but I hope that they are able to make a statement with this case, because this, it's every day. It's every day.
Mm-hmm. I think what's different about this case is the relentless news attention on it, right? So I was watching the trial. It was on all day in our house, on TV, and I was watching it while working, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And there was a lot of important testimony that unfortunately we didn't have the time to gather for you guys today, but we'll keep talking about this story as it moves forward. And the fact that you have a mass audience, not just a few jurors, not just a small group of people in a courtroom, but a mass audience paying attention to the witness testimony, it's so important, right? I think that's what sets this case apart from what we've experienced in the past. And some of the testimony, I'll detail it real quick. There was an off-duty firefighter who had gone for a walk that day and happened to become a witness for what happened to George Floyd. And she broke down on the stand because she got the feeling, like this sense that she was doing the wrong thing, and she also called the police. She was also trying to intervene and protect George Floyd's life. And the messaging that she received was that she was doing the wrong thing. And the point that she was trying to make is, no, that's exactly what I'm supposed to do, right? The whole point of my profession is to save people's lives. I'm paraphrasing, but she said something to that effect. But what really stood out was how the whole thing, she was crying, she was breaking down. There was a minor that you are not able to see on camera because she's a minor and we don't know her exact name. But she's the one who filmed George Floyd, getting suffocated to death by Derek Chauvin. And she talked about being up all night because she can't sleep. She has nightmares. She feels responsible. She feels that she should have done more to try to save George Floyd's life. This is the kind of stuff that it doesn't just traumatize family members, it traumatizes entire communities, the entire country. Like when you're there as a child witnessing that kind of brutality, it just breaks my heart to think that this minor thinks that she's in any way responsible or that she should have done more. People should not feel that way. Policing should not be a threat to innocent people's lives. And that's what it has become. That is what it has been for so many in this country, And so I'm really glad that they're carrying live coverage of the trial, because I think that it goes further in persuading people about how this is a real systemic issue.
Yeah, I just want to remind people, because with Derek Chauvin, you feel like that people have pushed away from him, and that they've kind of ostracized him a little bit because of the visibility of his act. And so a lot of people have pushed away from him, and even some law enforcement. But I want to just remind people that Derek Chauvin is a symbol of something that happens every single day in communities that you don't get to visit with, that Black and brown people are under constant terror of. And this one case, even though it is prosecuted, it is just a representation and a reflection of something that is a bigger problem, as you said a few minutes ago, in this country, that we really need to address, and not just get caught up in thinking that because even if he gets convicted, that is a victory, when we know good and well that right now in this very moment, a Black person is suffering terror at the hands of law enforcement. And we need to really, really address that.
Absolutely. And excessive policing, yes, disproportionately impacts Black people, communities of color. But for anyone who thinks this isn't a problem because of their skin color, they think they're protected. Think again, because there have been countless cases of excessive force and police brutality used against poor white people as well. And we need to stop thinking of ourselves as groups of little bubbles that only look out for one another in that bubble. We need to start looking to our peers, to everyone around us as fellow Americans who deserve to live happy, healthy lives of dignity. Okay, and so when you justify brutality against one, you justify brutality against all. And we need to get out of this culture of division, because that's inevitably the conversation that ends up happening, the discourse people inevitably end up engaging in as if they're safe. No one's safe when you make justifications for this kind of brutality.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.